What's up, fam? It's me, and I'm back. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody's being smart, and I hope everybody's staying safe. I just been busy working. That's why I've been gone for a couple of days. But I'm back, and there are some things that we need to touch base on, and some stuff that we need to talk about. There's some updates. We need to, get some stuff situated around here. But anyway, like I said, I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody's being safe, and I hope everybody's being smart. Now, let's get right into what we want to discuss tonight. And I want to lead into some stuff. As we've all been talking about, as you've heard me say, and as you've heard others in the new black media say, this whole propaganda push about the Asians, Americans being targeted by black folks, and all of these hate crimes and all of this so-called violence that has spiked and all of this against the Asian community as far as black people are concerned, and all of that, as we've already discussed and as you already know, it's mainly just a way for white supremacy to take the heat off itself. It's just a way for the focus and the conversation and all of that to shift from talking about white supremacy, because prior to, and especially since the activities on January the 6th up in the Capitol, white supremacy has been the talking point. We're no longer talking about racism. We're no longer talking about discrimination. We have been specifically talking about white supremacy. Now, we, as black folks, and those who were in the black media years before I knew what the black media was, have been talking about white supremacy for years. They've been talking about it for at least a decade, if not more. Specifically white supremacy, not racism, not discrimination, but specifically white supremacy. Okay, well, white supremacy had now become a part of the national discussion. We were talking about it not only nationally, but we were talking about it internationally. And we were talking about it specifically, white supremacy. We weren't using the words racism, the words discrimination, and all of that. We were talking about white supremacy. And also, anti-black racism had started to be something that was talked about, and those were the words that were being used not only by us in the black media and the black community, but also nationally, as part of the national discussion. Okay, and after white supremacy made itself so visible, not only because of the 4 years of Trump and the rhetoric that Trump was talking and all of that, but because of the very actions of white supremacy and their boldness, because they had been emboldened during the Obama administration, and that had only been boosted because of the things that Trump would say. Because of that, and because of their actions on January the 6th, white supremacy just put itself out there. It just put itself out there. So, as I told you, Biden's job was to go into the White House and put white supremacy back on the back burner. To take the focus off of white supremacy, allow white supremacy to slither back into the shadows and slither back behind the scenes, and take the focus off of white supremacy and put it on something else. Okay, well, they've used every other tactic. Nothing works. We see these police officers out here murdering black folks with impunity, not just on the streets. You understand what I'm saying? But going up in black folks' homes and murdering them with impunity, shooting folks 6 and 7 and 8 and 10 times in the back, and all of that, and not being held accountable for it, not being punished for it, not being charged or anything like that. So they needed something. They needed something to use to get that focus, that heat off of white supremacy. So that's what they came up with. They came up with, okay, and then of course, you got black folks pushing for reparations and pushing for reparations and all of that, and they needed something to get all of the attention off of black folks as the victims. You understand what I'm saying? Black folks as the specific targeted victims of white supremacy. You understand what I'm saying? And put that focus on another group of people as victims. And better yet, make them victims of the victims. Better yet, make them victims of black folks who you have already proven white supremacy has targeted for well over 400 years. But now we got to shift that. We got to take that attention off of these black folks as victims, because the more white supremacy shows that it targets black people, the more and more they have a case for reparations. So we got to take that focus off of black folks as the victims of white supremacy, and we've got to put the target on somebody else. We've got to put the focus on another group and show them as victims of white supremacy and victims of racism. But they have to be being victimized by black folks, because we don't want to see black folks as victims. We don't want to see black folks as victims of white supremacy. That's not the picture that we want to show in America. That's not what we want folks to see. We don't want folks to see black people as victims of this white supremacy system, as victim of white supremacy violence. We don't want to show that. We have to show black people in the negative and show them as the victimizers. We've got to get them back to being the thugs and the violent ones and the ones that are committing the crimes against somebody else. So that was the whole point in trying to push this narrative that black folks are now targeting Asian Americans and all of this bull. That was the whole point of that. To show us as the victimizers and to show another group as victims of our so-called racism. Although it's not possible for us to be racist against any group. Why? Because we don't have the power, we don't have the economics, we don't have the ability to oppress any group of people. We don't have the ability to oppress ourselves. We don't have the ability to oppress any other group, any other ethnic group, any other group of people in the United States. We don't have the economic power. We don't have the political power. We don't have the power to oppress any other group of people. We can't decide whether or not any other group gets houses and housing. We can't decide if any other group gets jobs. We can't oppress any other group economically. We just don't have that power. So we don't have the power to be racist. That's what having the power, that's what being racist means, is you have the power to oppress another group of people based on their race. And you can oppress them in different areas of human activity. You can depress them economically. You can oppress them socially. You can oppress them medically. You can oppress them politically. You can oppress them as far as education is concerned. You can oppress them as far as housing is concerned, because you have that economic, political, social power. We don't have, economically, we don't have the power to oppress Asian people. Asian people don't live in our communities. Most of them don't live in our communities. Yes, they do business in our communities. We have become their economic base. So yes, they do business in our communities, but most of them don't live in our communities. Most of them don't depend on some black landlord somewhere or some black real estate investor or something like that as far as how they get their housing. You understand what I'm saying? We don't have any institutions and any educational institutions set up where we are excluding Asians. HBCUs are taking all kinds of Asians. So we just don't have the clout, the power to oppress these people. So how can we be racist against them? We can't be racist against any group of people because we don't have that power. We don't have the power to to oppress anybody. We don't have the power to arrest anybody either, really. But we don't have the power to oppress any other group of people. Economically, politically, socially, we just don't have that power. But that's what they're trying to say. They're trying to say that white supremacy is now causing this shift, this racism towards these Asian Americans. You understand what I'm saying? It's not black folks anymore, or it's not just black folks that white supremacy is affecting. Now white supremacy is affecting white folks, and it's being done through, I guess it's being done through black people. But Asians, on the average, have a household income that's even higher than most white folks. They own businesses. They own land. You understand what I'm saying? Up in New York and in California and other places, they own very valuable land. But see, all of that was to shift the focus off of white supremacy and the treatment of black people in this white supremacist system, and put that focus on Asians and act like Asians are in trouble. You know, the Asian community is being targeted, and is being targeted by black folks. So Asians need our help now. Don't worry about black folks. Don't worry about what white supremacy has done to them for the last over 400 years. Don't worry about that. You know, we have a bigger problem now, and that problem is the Asians are in trouble. Okay? So you got to remember that's the whole point in all of this propaganda. These Asians, and they don't mind because they want to be honorary white anyway, and they don't mind because they harbor a great anti-black racism themselves. So they don't mind being used and being a part of, you understand what I'm saying, this false propaganda that they are being targeted by us. Although, as many before me and many who know so much more about this has pointed out, there is no equivalent in black society to Peter Liang. There's no equivalent in black society to the Korean woman that shot Latasha Harley in the back of the head and killed her over a little container of orange juice. See, we don't have the equivalent of that in the black community. If there are black people, get this, if there are black people that are committing any kind of crimes against Asians, they're not walking away from it scot-free. They are being found, they are being arrested, they are being charged, they are being tried, convicted, and sent to prison. You understand what I'm saying? How many white police officers are gunning down, murdering Asian folks in their homes, in the middle of the street? You understand what I'm saying? It's not happening. And then when this black person does this, shoots this, when the police do it, shoot this Asian person down in the street, and law enforcement and the court system and all of that gets involved, then you have the court system telling the Asian community, well, that police officer was justified in what he did. He was justified in murdering this person. He was justified in going in this person's home at 1 o'clock in the morning with a search warrant that he obtained by lying through false means and killing this person. How many black police officers are killing Asians and shooting them down in the street, and then having the court system back him up and say, well, there's no crime here. He was justified in doing what he did. How many black people are murdering Because we're not talking about folks being murdered. We're talking about folks being pushed down in the street, because that's the best they could come up with. That's the reason why they keep showing that same video of this so-called black person pushing this old Asian man down on the street. They keep showing that same video over and over and over again, because that's the best they can come up with. Why? Because we're not wholesale targeting Asians. That's just not what we do. Now, are there Asians that have been robbed or whatever the case may be by black folks, or crimes have been committed against them by black folks? Sure. But it didn't have anything to do with them being Asian. If it was a robbery, it was about money. We don't know for sure whether or not this guy that's pushing this Asian down, or whatever the case may be, we don't know for sure if he did that because that person was Asian. He might have just simply did it because the person was an older person. You understand what I'm saying? Or because, you know, it might have been a prank. Or you know, he might have been mentally challenged. Or he might have been told by some friends, I bet you won't go and push that old Asian man down. Or you won't go push that old man down, right? So it might, we don't know, because we don't have enough evidence, because all we're seeing is this one video over and over and over again. We don't have the evidence to prove that him pushing that man was racially motivated. A hate crime has to be racially motivated. You understand what I'm saying? Now, when we try to get folks to charge people with hate crimes against us, you understand what I'm saying? They tell us, well, you got to prove that it was racially motivated. You got to prove that it was all because of race. So there's no audio. We don't hear him throwing out any slurs at this old man. We don't hear him calling this old man any kind of Asian slurs or racial slurs or anything like that. So there's no evidence just from him pushing him down on the street that this was racially motivated. So it's got to be racially motivated in order for it to be a hate crime. But we know for a fact what we saw over in China when the COVID, when the 19 first took over here, and all of those Africans were being forced out of their homes, and they were being forced out of the motels, and they were being kicked and beaten and all of that in the street and all of that. We know for a fact that that was racially motivated, because they let us know it was racially motivated. We could hear what they were saying to these people, not just what they were doing. We could hear, so we knew based on what they were saying, based on their actions, based on all the reports that were coming out of China, we knew for a fact that that was racially motivated. They were being treated that way. Why? Because they were black Africans. But so far, we've seen no evidence that any Asian people that may have been attacked by black folks, we're not seeing any evidence that it was racially motivated. In most cases, it was a robbery. Robberies are not racial crimes. Robberies are crimes that have to do with money, finances, personal property, that type of stuff. Okay? But they gonna try to push this because they think that they have found a way to get everybody's attention off of white supremacy and how white supremacy has targeted black folks for the last 400 and some years. Okay? Now, but let's get into talking about some hate crimes. Let's get into talking about some stuff that we know for a fact is racially motivated. Okay? And the first one we want to talk about is, we want, because Plano, Texas has really been about their business. You understand what I'm saying? For the last maybe 2 weeks, okay? Because the first thing we had going on in Plano, Texas, was the young black teenager that was arrested by the police for walking in the middle of the road. You understand what I'm saying? On his way home from work. 18-year-old Rodney Reese. And the reason why he was walking in the middle of the road is because all the sidewalks and everything were completely covered with snow and ice and all of that, because Because remember, we just had this major unnatural snowstorm blizzard situation going on in Texas. So supposedly, let's read about it, okay? Let's read about it. Now, the update is that the police have dropped the charges against him. And understand this. Please be aware of this. The reason why the police dropped the charges against him was because of the heat that was being placed on them. And a lot of that heat, most of that heat, was coming from the new black media. Most of that heat was coming from the new black media. And the fact that people like Tariq and other folks that are, you know, that have been well established in the new black media were talking about it, you know what I'm saying, talking about it on their social media, posting about it on their social media, doing a broadcast about it and all of that. So understand, that's the reason why those charges were dropped. But let's read about some hate crimes that we know are racially motivated, okay? This is coming out of The Guardian. Okay, I'm trying to find the date because it ain't showing the date here, but I guess I'll get to it. Police drop charge against black man. Now, here we go again. I want you to notice again. In mainstream media, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-old black teenager is a man. Kyle Rittenhouse was a teen. Kyle Rittenhouse, even though he done shot 2 people, even though he, you know, he walking around with illegal guns and all of this kind of stuff, and joining in with the white supremacists and all of this, doing these protests and all of this, he continued to be a teen. This young man, 18 years old, a black teenager. You understand what I'm saying? The mainstream media automatically identifies him as a man. Not police drop charges against black teen arrested, but police drop charges against black man arrested. So mainstream media is still on that narrative. You understand what I'm saying? You 6, 7, 8 years old and you black, they gonna consider you an adult. You could be damn near 30 and be white, and they'll still try to act like you young, you didn't know no better, that type of thing, okay? Police drop charges against black teen arrested for, I'm going to read it the way it's supposed to be read, not the way it is. Police drop charges against black teen arrested for walking home in Texas snowstorm. Rodney Reese was arrested in Plano, Texas, and charged with being a pedestrian in the roadway. You understand what I'm saying? Where, how could you tell the roadway from anything else except for maybe the tracks? Because everything was covered with snow. Everything was covered with snow and ice. But that's not the reason why they arrested him. And we know that. A misdemeanor charge has been dropped against a black teen who was arrested last week for walking home on a street during a snowstorm in Texas. Rodney Reese, 18, was arrested on February the 16th in Plano and charged with being a pedestrian in the roadway, news outlets report. Police said officers received a call about a black man, and of course, if he was possibly in a white neighborhood, okay, well, anything that they see, well, you know, I mean, come on. Like I said, if you're over the age of 5 or 6, if you're able to walk, white folks consider you, if you're black, an adult. Police said officers received a call about a black man seen stumbling along in the middle of the snowy street wearing a short. Now, first of all, how else do you walk in the snow other than stumbling? I've never seen anybody walk in the snow the same way that they do when there is no snow. It's a different type of walk. Everybody walks the same way. Nobody walks the same when they're trying to navigate snow and ice. Okay, let's keep going. Wearing a short sleeve shirt and was sent to perform a wellness check. How many people do we know of, how many black people do we know of have been murdered by police behind a so-called wellness check? We know for a fact that Tatiana Jefferson was murdered because her neighbor called the police to come and check and do a wellness check, and that led to her being shot in the heart and murdered by the police. Police released body camera footage of the encounter on Facebook on Friday. In the video, police are seen following Reese and repeatedly asking him where he is going and if he was okay, to which he replies that he is fine and he is on his way home. So again, you got another case of them just stalking this young black man, just stalking him. They follow him until they finally can come up with something to try to arrest him on. I've seen portions of the video, and he's plainly letting them know, I'm fine. I just got home. I just got off work. I'm on my way home. I'm walking home. I'm fine. I don't need any help. I'm fine. Reese told KDFW TV he was walking home from his job at Walmart and didn't stop for the officer because he didn't need their help. Officers continued to follow Reese for about 2 minutes before stopping him, telling him that they were doing an investigation and informing him that he was being detained. Reese replied no and continued walking, but was stopped again. In the video, a brief scuffle is seen as officers attempt to handcuff Reese, who can be heard asking to be released. According to the Facebook post, the arresting officer noted that Reese resisted arrest but chose not to charge him. Okay, first of all, what was he being arrested for? Walking? Walking! Holding an investigation for what? Alright, if you were concerned, okay, you done followed him for 2 minutes. You understand what I'm saying? So you see at this point that he's not sick, he's not drunk, or anything like that. Why didn't you just offer him a ride home if you were really concerned? Plano Police Chief Ed Drain told KDFW TV the charge was dropped because the arrest wasn't consistent with why officers were called to investigate. They should have taken him home is where he should have gone, Drain said. Drain backed his officers, stating that at the time of the arrest, they didn't know Reese's age, where he worked, or where he lived. None of that mattered. He didn't have to tell them all of that. They didn't need to know all of that. Once they asked him what was up, he told them that he was fine and he was on his way home. That should have been it. He wasn't committing any kind of crime. He wasn't in the commission of a crime. Nobody had called and said that there had been a crime and that he was a possible suspect. It was just supposed to be a wellness check. Okay, well, once you say, are you all right? You understand what I'm saying? Are you okay? Or whatever. I mean, you could hear the white female police officer talking about the shit shirt he got on and all of this kind of stuff. Very, very disrespectful. Very nasty. And Ed Drain is another one of these bootlicks. You understand what I'm saying? That they sent out. Of course, they sent out the black person to cover for the white police officers. You understand what I'm saying? To try to act like they were doing their job and they didn't do anything wrong. Okay, let's keep going. Drain also said he doesn't believe race was a factor in the arrest, but added that he can't get inside people's heads. It's obvious that race was do you think for a minute, 1 minute that they would have acted that way, or they would have treated a young white teen that way? Oh no, they'd have had sympathy for him. Do you need a ride home? Do you want us to take you home? Do we need to call your parents to come and get you? The whole 9 yards. Reese said he believes the call that brought officers to the scene and his subsequent arrest was based on the color of his skin. And it was. But that was so blatant. You understand what I'm saying? And that was so blatantly unnecessary until that's the reason why they dropped those charges. Because again, now the charges would have stood if they had not got any pushback. That's just like that young black man that was in I can't remember where he was right now, but he was at home, and the white supremacists went to his house and was harassing him at his house and threatening him at his house, and he got his gun and shot and killed him. They arrested him. They had to let him out on bond. They had to let him out because the heat, you understand what I'm saying, from the new black media was so strong and so powerful, and certain people had got it and were talking about it, doing broadcasts on it, posting about it on social media, until they had to let him out. So anybody who does not believe that what is being done in the new black media is having an impact, something is wrong with you. Okay, but now let's move on. You understand what I'm saying? Because this is another situation where we're dealing with the police. So it's going to be, it's going to be real hard to get a grasp on this being a hate crime or this being racially motivated. They can always say, oh, well, because we got the call, we had to go check and all of this kind of stuff. But let's go to one that does not involve the police and is obviously racially motivated, and it's a hate crime. And that's the little black boy in Plano, Texas, that the white kids have been bullying, and that, they committed a crime against. They made him drink urine. They shot him with a BB gun. They were beating him. You could hear on the video, if you've seen the whole video, I didn't watch the whole thing, but you can hear on the video them calling him nigger and racial slurs and all of this. Okay? Now, this is from WMBF News, and it's national, by KTVT staff, March 7th, 2021, and it was updated March 8th, 2021. Mom claims. Now, understand again, we're talking about black folks. So now it's claims, it's alleged, it's appeared to be. It's not a statement of fact, even though we have the video right here showing it. But that's the difference with how mainstream media, how media reports anything that has to do with black folks, compared to how they report what they claim black folks have done to other people. Now, when they claim black folks have done it to other people, it's always reported as a statement of fact. But when it's something that black folks can prove, that they got videos showing you as has happened, it's always claims, alleged, appears to be, that type of thing. Okay, mom claims son shot with BB gun, forced to drink urine at sleepover. But here we go right here with a clear video of urine in a cup and this child being forced to drink it. An investigation is underway by Texan school officials and the police after the mother of a 13-year-old boy claimed classmates bullied and abused him at a sleepover. Summer Smith, the mother of a 13-year-old Samarian Humphrey, and it's funny how even though he's a minor, they don't mind putting his name out here. They don't mind putting his name out here, but the names of the teenagers who were involved in this, the white ones, their names ain't in the news. Their names aren't in the news. Says her son has been bullied at Haggard Middle School in Plano, Texas over the past year. She had been reporting the incidents, but claims, again, they just keep on with this claims, like she lied. But she claims everything came to a head at a sleepover in February. Smith posted a video to Facebook in which she accused Samarian's classmates of forcing him to drink urine at the sleepover. She says he was also shot with BB guns, hit in his sleep, and called racial slurs. She claims again, I mean, they big on this claims. She claims the sleepover was orchestrated by the students to purposefully bully Samarian, saying one of them befriended him the month before to get him to come. How horrible must you be? This is not a prank. This is beyond bullying. You are evil, said Smith of the accused students. It was premeditated and obvious that Samarian was only invited for their pure entertainment. Smith says her son has been harassed, degraded, and physically and mentally tortured by his schoolmates. But despite the fact she reported the incidents, she says she received no help from school staff. When you say there's nothing you can do, what do you mean exactly? Because I got to be honest, it seems like there's a lot of things you could do. The Plano Independent School District would not release information about the specifics of the case, but said appropriate measures were promptly taken to protect the victim and to investigate the allegations. Police say they will conduct a full investigation to identify any criminal offenses. But this is not being called a hate crime. You understand what I'm saying? Now, you know, of course we have our opinions about the mom. We have our opinions about her allowing him to go anywhere, talking about he's sleeping over with white kids. We have our opinion as far as this 13-year-old boy, you know, and how he's being raised to the point where he keeps allowing himself to be bullied and tortured like this. You understand what I'm saying? And keeps trying to associate with these white students and trying to be accepted or whatever. Now, we have our opinions and our thoughts on that, but that's not what this is about right now. Right now, this is about the fact that this is clearly a hate crime. Why? Because you don't just see the video with no audio, you have the audio. And what I want to know is who was recording the video. And how did she get it? Who was recording the video? But this is clearly a hate crime. They calling him racial slurs. So they making it clear that everything that they were doing was because of his race. But they want to investigate this and want to keep trying to push this out as a bullying case. This is not a bullying case. They weren't in school. They weren't in school when this particular video was taken and when this particular incident happened. So this is not a case of bullying. This is not a case for the school district. This is a case for the police to handle and go in and charge these folks. Remember when the black teens a few years ago had videoed themselves, it was some black ones and some white ones, had videoed themselves with the retarded dude, and they were forcing him to drink from the toilet and all of this kind of stuff. All of them were charged. They were charged with committing a crime. These folks need to be charged. These teenagers, these white teenagers need to be charged. And they also need to be hit with a hate crime charge. But you're running around talking about black folks are committing hate crimes against Asians. And look what's going on here. And the Plano, Texas police trying to drag their feet and all of this and not charge and they want to keep on trying to push it like it's a bullying incident. The school ain't got nothing to do with what took place in that private home among private citizens, and it had nothing to do with school. It was not on school premises. It was not during school hours. They ain't got nothing to do with that. The bullying that happened in school is a separate issue. This is a criminal issue right here. This should be a criminal investigation. But they keep trying to push it like it's bullying. That's all you keep on hearing on mainstream media. Now that they've been forced to run this story, all you keep hearing on mainstream media is bullying, bullying, bullying. This is not bullying. This is criminal. And it should be investigated criminally. And these young folks ought to be charged criminally along with being charged with a hate crime. But you notice because they white, they keep calling them teens. Teens, teens, teens. Students, teens. You understand what I'm saying? They ain't calling them young men and women. They calling them teens because they white. But this is not a bullying case. This is the perfect example of a hate crime. So see, this is the reason why we have to stay up on this stuff. And we have to push this stuff. And we have to talk about this stuff. Because white supremacy under Joe Biden now, under the Joe Biden administration, you understand what I'm saying, is trying its best to take the focus off of stuff like this. Because it wants to make us the big bad villains and the big bad victimizers, and we abusing people and we being racist against other groups and all of that, so it can take the heat off of white supremacy. Why? So that the discussion about reparations can be changed. And so that laws can be implemented, you understand what I'm saying, to give us another crime bill against black folks that target black folks. That's the reason why, again, and this takes me into the next arena that we're going to go in. Let me pull this up. I want to pull this up. Hold on. Let me get it. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on. Ah, there it is. Alright, there's a sister on Twitter that posted this. It's I'm black and I say so. We need to permanently stop supporting Asian businesses. Hashtag no anti-black racism. Hashtag FBA. Right? Well, some dude called New Tone, a New Tone producer or something like this. I don't know whether he's Asian. He looks Asian on here. Let me check. Physics teacher, math teacher, YouTube mixtape creator, a member of the Yang Gang. He's from Chicago, and he looks to be Asian. Anyway, under this sister's post, he put, I reported the tweet. I hope others do the same. And then his hashtag is Stop Asian Hate. And then he commented, a lot of vitriol right now in the replies, suggesting report, tweet, and move on. Most are here to just start trouble and piss people off. And down the line, down this whole thread, folks are going in on him because they're like, how is this hate? How is this hate if what this woman is saying is we need to stop supporting Asian businesses in our communities? Okay, they claim now this is what we need to get a grip on. This is what black folks need to get a grip on. Now they run around and they have joined this bandwagon of this false propaganda that they are being targeted for violence and hate crimes by black folks. They have wholesale, as a collective, they have joined the bandwagon on this, and they are pushing it just as hard as the white supremacists, because remember, they are honorary white supremacists. But this is the thing. They want to target you to possibly be charged with a hate crime, to possibly be charged with violence against them. They're spewing all of this anti-black racism and all that like they've been doing for years. But yet, with all of that, they still want you to be their economic base. They still want you to come spend your money with them. They still want to make money off of you, although now they claim that they are in fear of you, that you are a threat to them. But you are not a threat enough for them to pack up and move their businesses out of your neighborhood. They are not a threat enough for them to stop you from coming into their businesses and spending your money with them. So see, they on code collectively. Yeah, we gonna target these niggas. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, you know, we gonna help white supremacy target these folks and make them the villains and make them the thugs again so that we can take heat off of white supremacy. But we don't want these niggas to stop spending their money with us. We want them to keep coming to our businesses. Now, we want them to put themselves in harm's way because now, because of this propaganda push and because of this lie that they're spreading and this lie that mainstream media is pushing, now they are the target. Black folks are the target. You can walk into an Asian business now, you understand what I'm saying? They can treat you any kind of way, well, they always have, but they can really treat you any kind of way they want to. And if you defend yourself, you understand what I'm saying? Or if you argue back with them, or if they give you some kind of shoddy service and you complain or whatever, they can call the cops on you and automatically holler. You were targeting them. You were committing violence against them. You trying to commit a hate crime against them. And the next thing you know, either you done been shot and killed or you arrested. You facing a hate crime charge or whatever. So they want you to continue to come to their businesses, put yourself in that position, knowing that this is how they feel about you. Knowing that this is the propaganda that's being pushed against you. So yes, by all means, white supremacists, target them niggas. You understand what I'm saying? Make them niggas look bad. Make it look like them niggas are committing hate crimes against us and are targeting us for violence. You understand what I'm saying? But niggas, don't stop coming to our businesses. Don't stop spending your money with us. So he gonna try to call this hate because this woman is basically saying, black folks, now is the time. You understand what I'm saying? They done beat you in their nail salons with broomsticks and sticks and all of that. You understand what I'm saying? They done shot one young black woman in the head and killed her over a bottle of orange juice. You understand what I'm saying? They done body slammed you in their beauty supply stores and beat you in their beauty supply stores. You understand what I'm saying? They done showed you all that anti-black racism down through the years, following you around in the stores like you gonna steal something, telling you buy or leave. You understand what I'm saying? You buy or you leave. They in your neighborhoods, but they talking to you through bulletproof glass and all of this kind of stuff. All of these years, you have suffered their anti-black racism, and now they are willing, even though you are their economic base, even though your money causes them to live in the neighborhoods that they live in, causes them to be able to afford to send their children to the best schools, causes them to have the highest household medium as far as money is concerned, as far as income, even higher than some white folks. It's your money that did that. Because we are, as black folks, their economic base. Have been ever since after slavery. Right after slavery. We already talked about the history of that. But you're supposed to, in your dumbness, because black folks have done it for so long, we look over how we being treated. We look over how folks treat us. You understand what I'm saying? And we continue to associate with them. We continue to do business with them. We continue to try to socialize with them. We continue to try to be accepted by them and all of that. It goes perfectly to show what the story that we just talked about with the little black boy in Plano. They treating you like this. They bullying you, they harassing you, they physically targeting you and all of this, and you continue to try to be a part of what they got going on. You continue to try to be accepted by them. That's that slave mentality that we got to get rid of. And this mother or somebody is raising this boy with this slave mentality. No matter how they treat you, you keep going back. You keep trying to be their friend. You keep trying to be a part of their clique. You keep trying to be accepted in their society. That's a problem that we as black folks got. That's that slave mentality. We got to get rid of that. And we cannot raise another generation of black children with that slave mentality. Because we will continue to be, I'm telling you, we as black folk have a relationship with every other group of people like that abused wife, that abused woman, or that in some cases that abused man. You understand what I'm saying? You in that abusive, toxic relationship. You constantly being abused, physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically. You constantly being abused. This person is showing you in every possible way that they don't care nothing about you. They don't want to be involved with you. They don't want you around, but you keep going back for more punishment. We are gluttons for punishment. And what this sister is saying in this post is we need to stop that. No, we don't need to show them any hate. You understand what I'm saying? We don't need to show them any violence. What we need to do is we need to stop supporting their businesses. We need to stay out of their businesses. Why? Because it's crucial now. We need to stay out of their businesses for our own safety, as well as theirs. Since they claim we targeted them for violence and hate crimes and all of that, you know, it would appear that if we are that big of a threat and we pose that much of a threat to them, it would appear that they wouldn't want us in their businesses no more. They wouldn't want us around at all. But no. What they're saying is, you take this abuse, you continue to take our abuse to the point now where whatever you do, we can get you caught up in hate crime charges, violence against us, whatever. But you continue to deal with that and you keep supporting our businesses. Now, these are just some of the comments. One person said, it's not hate when we're being attacked in your nail salons and profiled, killed in your liquor stores. It's called Newton's third law of gravity. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Latasha Harlins, say her name. Latasha Harlins, again, is the young black woman in California that was shot in the back of the head by the Korean woman over some orange juice. This is another comment. I totally understand why many black folks feel compelled to withdraw support from Asian-owned businesses. Seeing as how you misrepresented this as some form of racism is telling. Perhaps you should start listening first before making assumptions. This person said this, and I agree. Actually, I'm disappointed black people took this long to start boycotting Asian businesses. Black people have been treated poorly by Asians for some time now. A teenage girl murdered by an Asian shop owner. An Asian protest to protect an Asian cop who murdered a black man. Again, Peter Liang and Kyle Gurley. And not only did these Asians come out and show their wholesale collective support for Peter Liang, they did so by calling Kyle Gurley's mother and his aunt all kind of racial slurs, all kind of niggas and all of that. I mean, they came by the thousands to support Peter Liang when he murdered this innocent man. Another person said, there's no hate here. We in the black community are galvanizing around supporting our own people and prioritizing our own economic empowerment. Sit down. This is another person. Since the Asian community feels they are under constant threat of violence from the black community, it's best that these communities stay as far away from each other as physically possible. Don't you agree? Another person said, let's first start by removing their stores out of the black neighborhoods. Again, what folks can't understand is, okay, if we pose such a constant threat to you that we're going to commit violence against you, we're going to come in and we're going to commit these hate crimes against you, why would you want us to patronize your businesses? Why? Because we are their economic base, and they know that. If blacks are going to be held to propaganda such as making us the scapegoat for attacks on Asian people, no, we do not have to support the businesses. Keep the same energy with Africans being hated abroad. Until then, boycott. I agree. This is what Miss Non-Tolerant said. I agree. I I would hate for anyone to feel threatened by us. My entire family just made an executive agreement to back out of all dealings just to make sure everyone feels safe. It's the best that we could do. We are looking out for the greater good, taking our business elsewhere. So you have a record of defending anti-blackness. Interesting. I don't see hate. That's love for self. And that's exactly what it is. It's love for yourself when you remove yourself from a volatile situation. When you remove yourself from a situation that you clearly see could be potentially harmful to you. That's loving yourself when you make the decision to remove yourself from that situation. And I know y'all seen I think it may have been on Twitter or Instagram. You seen the picture, the video of the black girl that deliberately goes in this Asian shop. You understand what I'm saying? And gets to recording, talking about they following her around and all of this foolishness and all that. That's not what we're not talking about that kind of foolishness. We're not talking about that kind of foolishness because at this point, there was no point for you to even be in there. There was no point for you to even be in that Asian business, for you to be videotaping anything. So if they treated you any kind of way, if they called the police on you or anything else happened to you in there, you brought that on yourself. Because there was no point at this point for you to be there. If you was going to be there, you'd have done the best not to let none of us know about it. Tariq said she was cloud chasing. But that was foolishness. We're not into that type of foolishness. You understand what I'm saying? And we're not talking about boycotting Asian businesses. We're talking about separating ourselves from them completely. If this is the way they want to act, if this is the way they want to do business, if they want to join forces with white supremacy to try to target us, you understand what I'm saying? To make us criminals and to make us violent and to try to act like wholesale as a collective community, we targeting Asians. If this is the way they want to do, then yes, it's past time that we stop doing any kind of business with them. Because there are other places that you can get what you get from Asian businesses. There are black businesses that you can get your hair from. There are black people that you can go get your nails done, the whole 9 yards. So at this point, if there's anybody black that's still supporting and patronizing Asian businesses, we consider you a part of that lost group. We got to leave you behind and we got to keep it moving. We got to keep it moving. Black women, wake up, because we are the majority. You know, black men ain't too much in nail salons unless they in there with their wife or their girlfriend. You understand what I'm saying? Black men ain't too much in beauty supplies trying to buy hair and all of this kind of stuff. So it's black women. Come on, black women. Come on, foundational black women. Get it together. Now, I'm not, you know, I'm speaking to the hood rats. You understand what I'm saying? Because this is that hood rat mentality that keeps going back over and over and over again no matter what you do. Because you act like they got something you just can't live without. But I just want to show, and then in one of these comments, it says that there was somebody on the Clubhouse that had posted the same thing. You know, that black people need to stop supporting these Asian businesses. And they were actually reporting that post. Because, see, they don't want to deal with the economic downfall of us not being there to support them, to be their economic base. They don't want to deal with that. But, see, they think it's going to be business as usual with black folks. You understand what I'm saying? We're going to treat them any kind of way. That's what white folks been doing for 400 years. Treating them any kind of way. And these niggas still trying to be a part of everything the white folks got going on. You got the vest Twitter. They still want to lay up with them and marry them and have babies by them and all of this kind of stuff. So we are honorary white folks. We got that kind of relationship with them too. You know what I'm saying? As long as we offer them something for some weave and some nails, you know, no matter how we treat them, they just gonna keep coming back. When are we going to stop with that mentality, with that slave mentality, with that desperation mentality, like we desperate to be accepted and we desperate to be a part of something that some other group got going on, like we can't do it ourselves, like we can't do for self. Not hate at all. You really have no idea what hate is. Great documentary on YT called The Rise and Fall of Jim Crow. How is this hate? Stop bothering peaceful black people. What about this? What about this tweet violates Twitter's policy? Actually, we just want to avoid any trouble, so we're staying out of your businesses for your safety and ours. We don't want any trouble. But understand, this is not the backlash that they thought they were going to receive. You understand what I'm saying? They didn't think that collectively black folks were going to start talking about, okay, well, if this is the way you want to do this, if this is the way you want to handle it, well, this is how we'll handle it. We'll just stop supporting your businesses, period. Not boycotting, stop supporting them permanently, period. If this is the way you want to handle this thing. And that's exactly what we need, and we cannot stress that enough. That is what we're gonna have to do collectively as the black community. We're gonna have to boycott. You understand what I'm saying? If they can keep their businesses going off of the 2 or 3 hood rats, then let them keep their businesses going off of them. But the majority of us need to make sure that we're not supporting Asian businesses, period. Go on Google. You understand what I'm saying? Research these companies. Make sure that they are black owned. Get your half from them online. You understand what I'm saying? There are plenty of on Facebook, there are black businesses that sell hair. Surely you can find somebody black in your city or the city over from you or whatever that does nails, or learn how to do your own. You understand what I'm saying? Learn how to do your own hair. Go natural. Do whatever it takes. But you can't support Asian businesses, because if you are spending your money with Asian businesses at this point, you supporting white supremacy, and you supporting white supremacy targeting you. But I just want you to see the absurdity in that. You understand what I'm saying? You putting it out here nationally. You are a part of a national propaganda push to act like black folks wholesale are threatening you, and you feel threatened by us because we're committing violence against you and all kind of hate crimes, and the rise of hate crimes and violence towards Asians has just skyrocketed so much, and this is being done by black folks, but yet you want them same black folks to keep coming to your businesses giving you their money. Stop it. Black people, stop it. And wake up. Stop being used. Stop being the clown that everybody else targets and laughs at and picks on, and you end up at the bottom. Stop being the clown. Your hair is not that important. Your nails are not that important. But your life should be. So what you're saying is, if you're going to continue to patronize these businesses, what you're saying is, my hair, my nails, me being able to eat Chinese food and all of that kind of stuff is more important to me than my life. And that's the slave mentality. As a slave, you are taught. You understand what I'm saying? Everybody else's life is more important than yours. Except for other black folks. But everybody else that's non-black, their life, their livelihood, everything about them is more important than you. Have some self-respect. All right, now, I want to move on to one more thing. There's one more thing I want to talk about. Hold on, let me get this up here. One more thing that I want to talk about. Well, two things. Now, as y'all know, Derek Chauvin's trial was supposed to start today. No, yesterday, Monday. Derek Chauvin's trial was supposed to start. And we're not going to say Derek Chauvin on trial for the killing of George. No, it's Derek Chauvin's trial. You understand what I'm saying? George Floyd ain't got nothing to do with it. It's Derek Chauvin's trial. It's all about Derek Chauvin and those other 3 police officers that murdered George Floyd in front of everybody. Ain't got nothing to do with George Floyd. You understand what I'm saying? It's about Derek Chauvin's trial. Well, his trial was set to start yesterday, Monday. But they delayed it because of this appeal thing that happened. So this is coming out of Star Tribune. This was March 6, 2020. Ruling, trial judge improperly refused to reinstate third-degree murder charge against Derek Chauvin. So now remember, there was 3 charges. There was the third-degree murder charge, there was the second-degree murder charge, and what was the other charge? Hold on, let me get it. Manslaughter charges. Right? Well, somehow or another, the trial judge decided that he was going to drop the third-degree murder charge, right? And Keith Ellison, Attorney General Keith Ellison, acting as the special prosecutor for this, wanted that third-degree murder charge reinstated, right? And appeals ruling comes days before Derek Chauvin is scheduled to stand trial. The Minnesota Court of Appeals ruled Friday that a trial judge was wrong to deny prosecutors' request to reinstate a third-degree murder charge against former Minnesota police officer Derek Chauvin, who is scheduled to be tried starting Monday in the killing of George Floyd, in the murder of George Floyd. The court ruled that its February 1st decision in an unrelated third-degree murder case set precedents that should apply to Chauvin's case. The court overturned a ruling by Hennepin County District Judge Peter Cahill, that name, Peter Cahill, that rejected charging Chauvin with the count and sent the prosecutor's request back to him for reconsideration. Although parties, attorneys, district court judges, and the public may disagree with this court's presidential decisions, district courts are bound to follow them, wrote Court of Appeals Judge Michelle Larkin. If it were otherwise, there would be uncertainty in the law and the integrity of our judicial system would be undermined. So basically what they're saying is Keith Ellison wanted that third-degree murder charge reinstated because he wanted the jury to have, they're saying, he wanted the jury to have more options and as far as finding Chauvin guilty of something, right? Veteran attorneys and legal scholars have said adding third-degree murder to the case would be a strategic move by Attorney General Keith Ellison's office, which is leading the prosecution, to give jurors more opportunities to convict Chauvin. The charge could be viewed by jurors as a middle ground and also allows the prosecution to present multiple theories of its case based on the different legal elements that must be met to convict on the respective charges, some said. Reinstating the charge could also serve as a bargaining chip in plea negotiations, Frey said. We believe the Court of Appeals decided this matter correctly, Ellison said in a written statement. We believe the charge of third-degree murder, in addition to manslaughter and felony murder, reflects the gravity of the allegations against Mr. Chauvin. Adding this charge is an important step forward in the path toward justice. So see, that trial judge who refused to instate it was looking after Chauvin. He was looking after Derek Chauvin because, see, the less charges, the less possibility of a jury actually convicting him of something. Because what's being said is that it may be hard for them to prove felony murder. You understand what I'm saying? But with that third degree charge there, it could be a middle ground between felony murder and manslaughter. So that trial judge wanted to make sure that he did everything he could to make it better for Derek Chauvin. That's the reason why he didn't want to reinstate that third degree murder charge. Okay, now we already got him at the courthouse putting up barricades and wire fencing and all of this kind of stuff. Now remember, that's the same thing they did in Kentucky right before old Coon Cameron made his decision in the Breonna Taylor case. Remember, they started putting up barricades around the courthouse and around the police department and all of that. Why? Because he knew that what he was going to come out and say, that they weren't going to be charged with anything pertaining to Breonna Taylor. He knew that that was going to start some trouble. So they already putting up barricades and barbed wiring and all this around this courthouse where this race soldier is going to be tried, because they trying to get the shit to fall down. You understand what I'm saying? They think that the fix is already in. And that's the reason why this trial judge, this Peter Cahill, didn't want to refuse to instate that third degree murder charge. Because you got to remember, they were talking about in the case with Daniel Cameron and Breonna Taylor how the actual grand jurors came out and spoke and talked about how they weren't given instructions and they weren't given any options and they weren't given the option to consider any other charges and all of that against what was the Lord? I could have forgot the man's name. Against them three folks, them three police officers that murdered Breonna Taylor. Remember, the grand jurors came out and said that they were not given any other options. They weren't told that there was anything else that they could charge them with. So see, since Ellison, because Ellison knows he's being watched by the black community. Keith Ellison knows he's being watched. Attorney General Keith Ellison knows he's being watched. And he knows that we're paying very, very close attention to his movements as far as this trial is concerned. So since he was pushing to have it reinstated, the judge had to step in. Remember, remember the prosecution, the judges, all of these folks are in cahoots together. Keith Ellison is not the state prosecutor, I mean the county prosecutor. He's the state attorney general. And this case was handed off to him because the county prosecutor of Hennepin County didn't want to be bothered with it. He didn't want to mess with it. So Keith Ellison knows he's being watched. And he don't want to have to go through what Daniel Cameron went through. With grand juries and all this being allowed to speak and publicly speak and come out and speak against Daniel Cameron and all of this, and folks crying for him and hollering for him to be investigated and all that. Keith Ellison don't want to go through that. So he being real careful. So since there's certain things that he can't do because he know he's being watched, the judge wants to step in and try to do them. That's the reason why he refused to reinstate that third degree murder charge. Because if you can't prove all the elements, all the requirements of felony murder, that second degree murder charge, then that leaves nothing but manslaughter. So we're going to have to watch this case real carefully. And Jason did a wonderful broadcast yesterday breaking down the questionnaire that the jurors actually got. And I'll have that broadcast linked in the description box so y'all can go see the actual questionnaire that they're giving jurors so that they can determine who they're going to allow on the jury and who they, for jury selection. And he does a great breakdown of that questionnaire, and it gives you insight and gives you insight into how these juries are selected and why when it's a white cop or a white person on trial for harming somebody black, how they use these questionnaires, you understand what I'm saying, to get rid of the black folks, to get rid of the black folks on the jury, or even some white folks on the jury that could possibly help convict these police officers or that white person that's guilty of harming somebody black. So you really need to watch that video, that broadcast, because it gives you some insight into some stuff. And you get to see the actual questionnaire and the kind of questions that are being asked. And of course, Jason breaks it all down like he's known for doing. But that's what's going on with Derek Chauvin. So we're going to have to watch this real careful. And we're going to have to see if... because the appeals court has already said, you know, it's got to be reinstated. That third-degree murder charge has got to be reinstated. So, we're going to see. It says, listen to this. It says the ruling comes as Chauvin prepares to go on trial next week on second-degree murder and manslaughter charges. See, they thought it was they thought they had it in the fix. Second degree murder and manslaughter. Okay, well, if you can't prove all the elements of second degree murder, then we ain't left with nothing but manslaughter. But if you throw that third degree murder in there, you understand what I'm saying? Okay, well then we got something else that, you know, we can convict him on. And again, I want to remind you, that's what the jurors, the grand jurors in the Breonna Taylor case came out and said, is that the prosecutor's office, talking about Daniel Cameron's office, didn't give them any other options, didn't give them anything else that they could indict on. And see, that's what they was trying to do here. You understand what I'm saying? Don't give them anything else that they can convict him of. Just give them second degree murder and manslaughter. And if you can't prove second degree murder, well then he gets off with a slap on the wrist for manslaughter. So Keith Ellison, like I said, Keith Ellison is real cognizant of what happened to Daniel Cameron. Don't think for 1 minute that Keith Ellison is not thinking about what happened to Daniel Cameron. And how the very grand jurors were allowed to speak out against Daniel Cameron and allowed to say, we weren't given any other options. We weren't given any other choices. We weren't allowed to look at anything else to indict them on. And Keith Ellison does not want to find himself on that side of history. So the judge picked it up and tried, this Peter Cahill, the trial judge, picked it up and tried to do the work that the prosecutor would have normally done. And that is try to work it in a way that this man, if he don't get off altogether, he gets off with the lowest possible punishment. Just like I'm sure y'all already heard that they have decided to give Amber Geiger an appeal. They have decided to listen to her appeal, and the judge gonna actually and her defense is gonna actually be that it was self-defense because she thought she was going in her own apartment. So her murdering this man in cold blood, they gonna say it was self-defense because she thought she was in her own apartment. So see, that's what all that hugging and that's what all that hugging and all of that commotion and carrying on and foolery that they did in the courtroom, that's what it got. It got her an appeal. Her case will be heard on appeal. And they want to bring her charges down now. I think it is to something like manslaughter or something like that. And then she'll do time served and that'll be it. So that's what this forgiveness and all of this hugging and all these shows of compassion and all of this kind of stuff from black folks, that's what it gets you. So I just wanted to touch bases on that and let you know Keith Ellison is cognizant of the fact that he is being watched. That he is being watched by the black community. He is being watched by the new black media. He's cognizant of that. He's remembering very clearly, because it ain't been that long ago, exactly what happened with Daniel Cameron. And he's in a very, very similar situation. So that's the reason why he knows he had to push for having that third-degree murder charge reinstated. Because he know black folks would have been all over him. So now the last story. Let's get to the last story. And this is probably the most important. Now this is from U.S. News. And it's by the Associated Press. And it's just a bunch of, it's just another bunch of bullshit, but we need to know what's going on. This came out February the 17th, 2021. Is that the one I wanted? Hold on, y'all. I don't think that's the one I wanted. Hold on. Let me make sure I got the right one. Okay, well, yeah, that's close enough. Yeah, that'll do. That's good enough. February the 17th. That's good enough. President Joe Biden's White House is giving its support to studying reparations for black Americans, okay, by Kevin Freaking, Associated Press. And again, this was February 17, 2020. President Joe Biden's White House is giving its support to studying reparations for black Americans, boosting Democratic lawmakers who are renewing efforts to create a commission on the issue amid the stark racial disparities highlighted by the COVID-19 pandemic. A House panel heard testimony Wednesday on legislation that would create a commission to examine the history of slavery in the U.S., as well as the discriminatory government policies that affected former slaves and their descendants. The commission would recommend ways to educate the American public of its findings and suggest appropriate remedies, including financial payments from the government to compensate descendants of slaves for years of unpaid labor by their ancestors. Biden backs the idea of studying the issue. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said Wednesday, though she stopped short of saying he would sign the bill if it clears Congress. He certainly would support a study of reparations, Psaki said at the White House briefing. He understands we don't need a study to take action right now on systemic racism, so he wants to take actions within his own government in the meantime. Okay, this is where I want to go with that. First of all, this whole RH-40, because that's the name of the bill, is not for reparations. So again, let's make that clear. We've already had this discussion. We need to keep having this discussion for all the new folks, for all the people that are just waking up, for all the people who don't really understand what's going on and who think that HR 40 somehow or another is reparations. HR 40, that's the name of the bill. HR 40 by Representative Sheila Jackson Lee is not reparations. HR 40 is simply a bill that they want to pass to study slavery. To set up a commission to study slavery. Right? To study slavery and to study the possibility of reparations and the different remedies that they could come forward with to repair the wound, to repair the injury that was done to foundational black Americans because of slavery and because of all the discriminatory government policies that came after slavery was so-called abolished. Okay? It's just a study. It's just a bill to set up a commission to study some shit. You understand what I'm saying? That's all it is. That's the reason why that's the reason why these white supremacists don't have a problem with this HR 40 bill. They don't really have a problem with it. They don't mind setting up a commission to study it. You understand what I'm saying? And they study it for the next 20, 30, 40 years. Commissions can go on forever and ever. You understand what I'm saying? And then maybe after about 5 or 10 years, you know, and for some reason we're not talking about it anymore or whatever, the commission just kind of dies down and you never hear anything else about reparations. Or they come up with these recommendations where we need to send some money to the HBCUs and we need to give them vouchers and you know, we need to give them some help, you know, buying a home and all of this kind of stuff, which is not reparations at all. But understand, HR 40 is not reparations. HR 40 is just a bill to create a committee that will study slavery as well as the discriminatory governmental policies that affected former slaves and their descendants, like Jim Crow, the black codes, redlining, segregation, separate but equal, all of that kind of stuff. Right? And they can study this shit for years. Alright? They didn't need but this is the key. They didn't need a study before they gave former slave owners reparations at the end of slavery. $300 for every slave that they no longer had. They gave them reparations. They didn't need a study for that. They didn't need a study to give Jews reparations and benefits from the United States government, although we didn't have anything to do with the Holocaust, and it didn't happen here. And we're still giving Israel, I think it's $38 billion over a 10-year period, so that's $3.8 million every year. But we didn't have a study for that. You understand what I'm saying? There was no study to give Japanese Americans reparations for being in those internment camps in World War II. There was no study for that. There was no long, exhaustive study to give the so-called Native American Indians reparations, even though most of that went to white folks, because most of them names that ended up being on the Dawes rolls were white people. You understand what I'm saying? But there was no study to give them those reparations. But when it comes to the debt that was owed to us, we didn't owe a debt to the Jews. The Holocaust didn't take place here. And the United States government were the ones victimizing the Jews. You understand what I'm saying? So we didn't injure them, right? But everybody else that we injured, everybody else that the United States government injured, you understand what I'm saying, and wounded, they have given them reparations. That's what reparations is. Reparations is something that you do to repair an injury. The Japanese Americans, the Native Americans, the former slave owners, anybody that the American government seemed to think that they injured, you understand what I'm saying? Somehow or another they got reparations, and they got it in the form of money. Native Americans got money and land. And it was not studied. They didn't do a study to decide what they were going to do about 19. They just started passing $1 trillion bills. $1 trillion bills. The CARES Act. And the one that they just passed back here not too long ago, and we got the $600 stimulus in December. They just started passing bills, trillions of dollars. They didn't study it. But when it comes to paying us a debt that is owed, and it keeps building. You understand what I'm saying? Because we're still being affected. That wound has never healed. That wound has never been allowed to heal. Nobody has ever tried to clean that wound. You understand what I'm saying? And put any medicine on that wound. Nobody has ever tried to do that. So that wound has remained open all of these years and has just been allowed to fester. And every time they call themselves trying to put a little Band-Aid over the wound, they pull the Band-Aid off and sprinkle some more salt in the wound and make it raw again. But we as foundational Black Americans cannot allow the Democrats, we cannot allow mainstream media, we cannot allow the Republicans, we cannot allow anybody to take over the conversation of reparations. And y'all understand, Sheila Jackson Lee is not your friend. She's not proposing any reparations for you. She's not proposing doing anything to help you. Sheila Jackson Lee is an immigrant. You understand what I'm saying? And what she's doing is undermining foundational Black Americans. That's the reason why they keep having all of these fake ass reparation hearings, and you get all of these crazy folks up there that don't know jack nothing about nothing. You understand what I'm saying? All of these folks like Herschel Walker, Danny Glover, Larry Elder. Who did they have up there? This car, that Coleman Cruz, the Puerto Rican dude. All of these people coming in to speak against reparations. These are the people that she invites to come and be a part of these hearings. Instead of getting foundational Black Americans up there that can talk sensibly about reparations and why reparations are owed to us by this government. Not only this government, but by a lot of these major corporations, by a lot of these big banks. You understand what I'm saying? So if the government can't foot the bill, all they need to do is turn to some of these major insurance companies, because a lot of them got their wealth from all of this insurance that they put on these slaves. These slaves were insured. They were property. They were insured like property. Goldman Sachs. You understand what I'm saying? All of these big banking institutions, Chase, Manhattan, all of these folks got their wealth from slavery. The wealth of the United States as well as other governments, the British. All of these folks got their wealth from slavery. So if the federal government is having a hard time footing the bill, well, they can get some help from some of their corporate friends and their corporate buddies that they keep bailing out with all of these trillions and billions of dollars. They keep bailing them out. Well, they can get some help from them to pay this bill. But it's a debt that's owed, and we're not going to settle for anything less than what we demand. You made money off of our free labor. You made money off of our very bodies. The buying and selling of Black bodies. You understand what I'm saying? Because of that, you were able to acquire land. So we will settle for nothing less than money and land. The wealth of this country was built off of our backs. In two ways, like I said, our free labor and the buying and selling of our bodies. We were the first stocks on the stock market. Go to Wall Street and get Wall Street to help you fund these reparations. But you're going to pay. You're going to cut the check. We're not going to settle for you sending some money to a HBCU. We're not going to settle for you giving people vouchers so they can go buy a house. We're not going to settle for that. And then after so-called slavery was over, you used all other government legislation and all other legislations from states and governments and federal legislation and all of us to block us, to keep us out of the wealth, to close us out of the wealth. So you owe us. And again, we're not going to keep on dealing with you based on race. We're going to deal with you the way that you deal with us. Okay, you claim that the Constitution won't let you do anything specifically for one race. Okay, well, we're not in this because we're black. We're not talking about reparations simply because we're black. We're talking about reparations because you injured us. Reparations is about the injury, the wound. The fact that we were black is your fault. You made that distinction. We didn't. You chose black folks, whether they were African or whether they were natives of this land. You chose black folks to enslave. So that part of it is on you. We're not coming to you because we're black and saying we want reparations because we're black. No, 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 no. We're coming to you saying we want reparations because we are the descendants of the people that you chose to enslave, force to build this country. You understand? Force us to labor and build this country, and you generated all of this wealth from our labor and from the buying and selling of our bodies. Ain't got nothing to do with the fact that we were black. You made that distinction. We're coming to you with a justice claim, a reparations claim. You understand what I'm saying? Because of the system that we had to live under, because of all of this free labor that you got, all of this wealth that you built, and we never got our share of it. We're coming to you because you injured us, and you continue to injure us as a collective group. If that has anything to do with the color of our skin, we didn't determine that. You did. But we're not coming to you as black folks. We are coming to you as descendants of American chattel slavery. That's what we're coming to you as. We're coming to you as descendants of American chattel slaves. That's what we're coming to you as. And we've got to stick with that. We've got to stick with DOACS. It can no longer just be descendants of American slavery. It can no longer just be descendants of slaves. We got to be specific. And we got to take the color out of it. Because again, us being black has nothing to do with us coming to you with this reparations claim. We're coming to you with this reparations claim. Why? Because we are the descendants of American chattel slaves. And it's got to be chattel slaves. Because our slavery was different from any other kind of slavery that you might want to talk about was going on this North American continent. We weren't indentured slaves. Indentured slaves maintained their humanity. They weren't considered property. You understand what I'm saying? And that slave and that indentured servitude didn't extend down to their children and their children's children and their children's children's children. We were owned as property. And that was perpetual. You didn't just own us. You owned our children, our children's children, and our children's children's children. For centuries. Chattel slavery. So we are the descendants of American chattel slaves. Y'all might be able to hear my daughter back in the background, but just ignore that. I'm trying to talk over her. She playing a game with her friend and she gets kind of loud sometimes. So I'm trying to talk over her. But you have to understand, and that's the way we're gonna have to go after this reparations. We're not gonna concentrate on the fact that we're black. That was your choice. That was the distinction you made. You decided that you were going to enslave. And not only enslave, but dehumanize these black folks, these dark-skinned people, these brown-skinned people. You understand what I'm saying? These copper-skinned people. You decided that you were going to use us. That wasn't our decision. We didn't make that distinction. And you decided what form of slavery you were going to impose upon us and oppress us with? You decided that it would be chattel slavery, where we stop being human beings and we start being your property. You decided that. So since that was the decision that you made as a government, then you have to rectify that. You have to rectify the decision that you made. Chattel slavery was your decision. You made chattel slavery the law of the land. Just like you made segregation the law of the land, just like you made black codes the law of the land, just like you made Jim Crow the law of the land, just like you made all of this stuff the law of the land. So it's your responsibility to rectify that, not us. We're not coming to you because we have a claim because we're black. We're coming to you and we're demanding this because we have a claim, because we have been injured by you. We have been injured by your government. And it's not like 1865 when so-called slavery was abolished. It's not like the injury ended right there. You continued to injure us with your policies, with your laws. Laws that were on the book, laws that some of them are still on the books. You continue to refuse to pay us what you owed us as your labor force, as your forced labor force. You refuse to pay us. You refuse to give us what was owed. And now it has built up and it's collected over the years and it has become this huge debt. So again, if the federal government cannot handle this debt, then you need to go to some of your corporate buddies and go to Wall Street and go to some of these big banks and these big huge insurance companies. All of these folks who built their wealth off of chattel slavery. You need to go to them and tell them, okay, y'all gonna have to pitch in. You understand what I'm saying? To help pay this debt because y'all benefited from this free labor and the selling of these human bodies. But we're going to have to do it as descendants of American chattel slavery. We can't do it as foundational black Americans. We got to take the black out of it. We got to make sure that they understand they're the ones that decided it would be black people. We didn't decide that. We're not coming to you as strictly black folks. We're coming to you as descendants of American chattel slaves. Now, if that means black folks, okay, but that's because you made sure it meant black folks. We didn't. You made sure of that. So we're going to have to be very, very serious, but we're going to have to be very, very specific about this claim. We're going to have to be very, very specific how we come to them, because we have to come to them as an organized collective group. You can't just say black folks. You'll never get reparations like that. But descendants of American chattel slaves that rules out any other kind of slavery or any other kind of indentured servitude or anything else that they try to add into the mix. That adds in the brutality of the slavery, because chattel slavery dehumanized us. It took our humanness away from us and turned us into just property. Just personal property, like a chair or a cow or a dog or a lamp post. We stopped being human beings and became property. Property that was insured. So there are insurance companies that made their fortunes from chattel slavery. again, we were the first stocks on the stock market. When you think of stock, you think of livestock. You think of cows and horses and all of that kind of stuff. When you think of, you don't think of human beings when you think of stock. Dehumanizing. So we gotta add that chattel slavery in there. Just being descendants of American slaves is not enough. You hear them always talking about, well, the Irish was enslaved first and blah blah. They weren't chattel slaves though. They maintained their humanity. And their children weren't born into servitude. Our children were born into chattel slavery. Our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren born into chattel slavery. But we're not coming to you demanding reparations because we're black. We're coming to you demanding reparations because we were injured by you. Deliberately injured by you. Through American chattel slavery. And all the stuff that you approved and all the laws that you put on the books and all the policies, the public policies and everything else that came after this so-called chattel slavery was supposed to be abolished. You injured us and you have continued to injure us. And we don't need a study. We don't need a commission to study anything. The effects of chattel slavery, Jim Crow, black codes, redlining, housing discrimination, discrimination in education, all of that is clear. We don't need a study. You ain't studied to help nobody else. You didn't study to repair the injury that you did to any other group of people. The Japanese Americans didn't come to you because they were Japanese Americans. They came to you because you injured them. Because you brought harm onto them in those internment camps. The Native Americans didn't come to you for reparations because they were Native Americans. They came to you for reparations because you injured them. You wounded them as a collective. The slave owners weren't looking for reparations simply because they were slave owners. They were looking for reparations because you removed their slaves and you injured them economically. It's all about the injury. So that's what we got to stick to. We got to stick to the injury. The fact that we're black is on you. You made that distinction. You made that decision that you were going to enslave and oppress black folks. Brown folks, copper colored folks, whatever. You made that decision. But we're not coming to you and demanding reparations simply because we're black. We're doing it because we are descendants of American chattel slaves. And you injured us. You wounded us. And maybe we wouldn't have a claim if you had done something to repair that injury back in 1865. Or if you had done something to repair that injury back in 1900. Or if you had really done something to repair that injury back in 1964. But you have done nothing to repair that injury. And the policies, the laws, the same mindset is still injuring us today. So that's the reason why we have a claim. Not simply because we're black. So we got to take black out of the conversation. Descendants of American chattel slaves determines the ethnicity of the people with the claim. That's not our responsibility. It's not our responsibility to say, well, it was black people. No. We're coming to you as who we are. We are descendants of American chattel slaves. We are the descendants of those people. can't help we black. You made that decision. You decided that we were the ones that you would use to institute American chattel slavery. So that's what we're going to have to do. When we start talking about reparations, when we're having these conversations about reparations, we can no longer just be descendants of slaves. We can no longer just be descendants of American slaves. We can no longer just, we can't be that. We have got to be specific. We are descendants of American chattel slaves. That's a total different kind of, that's a totally different creature. And we are coming to you not because we're black, but because we were injured and nobody has ever done anything to repay us, to repair us, to right that wrong. And what we want is what you took from us. You took our labor from us. You understand what I'm saying? You took our bodies from us. You took our land from us. You took our wealth from us. In a lot of cases, you took our opportunity to build any wealth from us. You closed us out from the wealth that we had built. And we want that back because it's owed to us. Not because we're black. It's owed to us because you injured a specific group of people. Just like you injured the Japanese Americans. Just like you injured the Native Americans. Where you injured slaves under America's chattel slavery system. And we are descendants of those people. And you are still injuring their descendants to this day. So you owe us for that injury. And it's a monetary injury because, I mean, come on, they didn't make no money off of the Japanese that was in them internment camps. They ain't made no money off of the Jews that was in the Holocaust. They ain't made no money off of the Native Americans other than land. They made money off of us. They built the very wealth of this country off of us. Off of American chattel slavery and American chattel slaves. And we never got one iota of that. They didn't get it. We don't get it. So that's how we got to come at this. We got to come at this organized. We got to come at this understanding that we can't deal with them on that racial level. Oh, it's we black. No, 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 no. Us being the descendants of American chattel slaves and being black, okay, well, the black part is on you. Again, because you are the one that, as the government, you collectively decided that this certain group of people are the people that we are going to oppress with this American chattel slavery system. You decided that. But we got an injury. We got a wound. And you are obligated to fix that. You are obligated to pay the debt that you owe us. Because you made money off of us. You built wealth off of us. That American chattel slavery system built all the wealth in this country. And that wealth has been passed down, you understand, from generation to generation. And it has grown. It has expanded over the generations. So that's what I want. That's the main thing that I really wanted to get to. You understand what I'm saying? All that other stuff, it was necessary. We needed to talk about it. We needed to put certain information out there. But the main thing that I wanted to get to was making sure that black folks understand what this reparations thing is really all about. It's not about black folks just all of a sudden wanting the government to give us some money. No, that's not what it's about. It's about a legitimate claim that we have because there's a legitimate debt that's owed, because there is no other group of people that have come here and been dehumanized and had their very humanism snatched away from them, and they turned into property so that as property their labor could be used, their bodies could be bought and sold, and they could build the wealth of a nation. They ain't made money off of nobody else like that. Let's be real. Everybody else they had to pay. Even the indentured people, the indentured slave. Once your debt was paid, because you were paying back a debt. Once your debt was paid, you were free to go on about your business. And again, your children were not a part of that debt. Your children were not then held responsible for paying your debt if you died, or for whatever reason you couldn't pay it. Your children were not then responsible for it, and their children's children. So we are owed a serious debt for a serious injury. And that injury did not stop at the ending of chattel slavery. That injury continued on, and it continues on to this day. Mass incarceration, crime bills, criminalizing everything that black folks do, or everything that the descendants of American chattel slaves do. So yes, we are foundational black Americans, but we are also the descendants of American chattel slaves. And when it comes to reparations, when it comes to our reparations demands, when it comes to our reparation claim, that's what we're going to have to go at. We can't go at it as black folks. We can't do that. They got too much shit in the pipe to cover that. But we got to use the very system that they set up against them. They set up the system of American chattel slavery. And they chose the people that they wanted to use and the people that they wanted to oppress with that system. So we got to use that system that they set up, that system that became the law of the land. We've got to use that system, and everything that came after that system, we've got to use that when we fight for our reparations. And it shuts down the voices of all these other people. It shuts down the voices of all these other people trying to claim that they have a reparations claim as well. Or that their descendants were slaves here or there, or that their descendants were actually slaves here in the United States. Your descendants weren't slaves under American chattel slavery. The slavery system that built the wealth of this country. So I just wanted to break that down. I had to do all that other stuff to lead into this. Okay? So that's what I want to bring to y'all tonight. Of course, all of this stuff will be listed in the description box, as well as Jason's broadcast breaking down this jury selection process and that questionnaire for the Derek Chauvin trial. There's also a very good broadcast that Tariq did, breaking down some stuff and breaking down, again, adding some more information and breaking down some more stuff with this whole propaganda lie that they're trying to push about black folks against Asians. Again, I want to stress, if you care anything about yourself, if you care anything about your family, if you care anything about your friends, you understand what I'm saying? Please urge your black sisters, especially black women, please urge them to stay away from these Asian businesses. Period. And use this as the greatest opportunity to support black-owned businesses. You understand what I'm saying? In some cases, if it's possible, use it as an opportunity to start your own black-owned business, to start selling hair yourself. Do a little research and find out how you can start selling hair yourself. This is tax season. For some of you sisters getting back $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 because you got 3, 4 kids, you understand what I'm saying? Take some of that money and research how to start your own hair business. I'll tell anybody, YouTube got the tutorials teaching you how to do nails every day. Go on YouTube and learn how to do your own nails. And then maybe, just maybe, once you get good at doing your own, you can start doing other sisters' nails. And the next thing you know, you in business doing nails. But show some self-respect. Show some love for yourself. You think you showing love for yourself walking around with all that fake hair on and sitting up every 2 or 3 weeks getting your nails done? You think that's how you show love for yourself? No, the way you show love for yourself is to stop doing business with folks that clearly making it clear, abundantly clear, that they don't care nothing about you, that they have anti-black feelings, anti-black racism. And they are willing to join forces with white supremacy to harm you in whatever way is necessary, by any means necessary. So those of you who watch this video, please have these conversations with your cousins, your sisters, your mama, your wife, your girlfriend. You understand? Your other female friends, the women that you work with, and make sure that they understand that you staying out of these Asian businesses is gonna help you. Because you keep running in these Asian businesses, especially while they pushing all this propaganda, you mess around and get caught up. And the next thing you know, they done took it beyond just beating you with broomsticks and body slamming you and the Asian men jumping on you and all of that. Before long, you find yourself in the same place as that poor little girl, Latasha Harlan, with a bullet in the back of your head. And they'll get off scot-free for doing it because they can say that you were committing violence against them, that you were committing a hate crime against them. Use some common sense. It don't take a whole lot. 2 + 2 is 4 every day. This don't take a degree in rocket science to figure this out. Show some real self-love and really do what's best for you. But you know, I just, all we can do is provide this information. All we can do, and again, if you know of anybody black owned that sells hair, that sells hair care products, that does nails or whatever, list that down in the comment. The email for the channel will be down in the description box. Email me a list of black owned businesses that you know, so we can start promoting these businesses and we can start putting this information out here so that sisters won't have an excuse and they can find what they need in the black community, and they won't have to continue to go outside of the black community. But again, y'all, all of this information will be in the description box. Y'all get in there, you know, y'all do this research, y'all find this stuff out for yourself. Remember, we got to keep pushing what happened to that little black boy in Plano, Texas, with the drinking urine and all that. We got to keep pushing that as a crime. That's not bullying. That's beyond bullying. The school system has nothing to do with that. All of that stuff needs to be criminally investigated. Those other white teenagers need to be hit with some criminal charges, and they also need to be hit with a hate crime. That's the true definition of a hate crime. You know, this video that they circulating of one person, and we don't even know who this person is. We can't even really distinguish who this person is on this video, pushing down a so-called Asian man. You understand what I'm saying? We can't hear nothing. All we see is him pushing this man down. We have absolutely no evidence whatsoever that that was racially motivated. That the only reason why he pushed this man was because he was black and the man was Asian. We have no evidence whatsoever that it was racially motivated. For all we know, the man might have said something to him You understand what I'm saying? And the man might have said some kind of racial slur to him, and that's the reason why he pushed him down. See, we don't have enough evidence. We don't have enough information to make any kind of intelligent assumption or reasonable deduction as far as this silent 2-second video is concerned. But this case with this little black boy in Plano, we got a whole video of them hitting him, of them drinking, of them forcing him to drink urine, of them slapping and beating on him, of them calling him racial slurs, the whole 9 yards. So if just pushing, I mean, black folks, wouldn't we be the happiest people in the world if all we had to worry about was somebody pushing us down every once in a while? If all we had to worry about was somebody calling us a racial slur or calling us out of our name every once in a while. If that's all we as foundational black Americans ever had to worry about on the North American continent, it's just being pushed down every once in a while. Just being called a nigger every once in a while. But this is what these folks are calling hate crimes. But ain't no move being made on behalf of this little black boy, and it's clearly racially motivated. It's clearly not only criminal, but it's clearly a hate crime. So we got to get it together. We got to get together, we got to get on code, and we got to stay on code. So please have these conversations. Please like this video. Please share this video. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. Hit that bell notification so you can be notified when we upload videos. I know I went a little long, but it was some stuff. I hadn't been here with you for a minute, and it was some stuff that, you know, I wanted to go over, some stuff that I needed to talk about, and I really wanted to get into us understanding about reparations and us understanding how we're going to have to go forward with this reparations claim, and we can't do it as foundational black Americans. We can't do it concentrating on the black part. You understand what I'm saying? We got to do it concentrating on the American chattel slavery part. That's the part, and us being descendants of those American chattel slaves. That's how we're going to have to go at this thing. Okay? So, like I said, y'all get down in that description box. All of this stuff, all this information, all these other videos will be posted in the description box. And I'll be with y'all. I'll be back with y'all soon. And y'all have a good night.